Hello and welcome to the weather update. It's 9:30 on September the 12th, and dry day today. No, not much rain. No rain today, but we did have a mix of sun and clouds today. And let's go to the. So this is the satellite loop here. You can see here. Look, maybe one storm was firing over Delaware there, but other than that, not much going on across the area. You can see this what the MODIS satellite look. You can see all the clouds that we started off with. And then they kind of cleared out, and then we had a lot of pop-up cumulus and some cirrus during the day. Not as pretty of a looking sky as we had yesterday, but this is what the cumulus looked like. They got pretty large. You can see it was a little bit hazy in the sky, so not quite the pretty sky that we had yesterday. But, we did have some rather dark cumulus congestus clouds in the afternoon here in Mineola, and actually I thought I saw maybe a few drops of rain, but that was it. And then toward the evening, they kind of cleared up a little bit, especially toward the south shore. Just a few wisps of cirrus right there that you see. So let's take a look at our current conditions outside right now, and you'll see we've got a high surf advisory in effect. Click that there. Well, go to this map here. See the high surf advisory in effect. That's from Lee. And then we also have a flood watch in effect for tomorrow, I believe. So let's go back to the weather and hazards map here and take a look at our current conditions outside. And you can see it's gotten humid again, dew point 70. It was a little drier earlier with dew points in the 60s, but when the winds went to the south, the dew points kind of came back up again. So 73, and I got about 75 in the alley right now, so not too far off. You can see we got in the low 80s today. You can see the dew points did go down to the mid-60s with the westerly winds. But then when the winds went to the south, the dew points came back up again. So let's take a look at our highs and lows for the day on the map. I know we're kind of zoomed out a little bit here, but you can see high temperatures on Long Island generally in the low 80s. So I'll put this in a little bit here so you can see a little bit better if it'll load. I said loves doing this. All right, here we go. So low 80s. Yeah, all across Long Island, pretty much low 80s, maybe on the Forks around 80. And, of course, hotter in Jersey, where you had mid to upper 80s there in Jersey. So, yeah, significantly hotter there than here. And if we were to look at what the day was like in Berkeley Township, for instance, you can see it got a lot hot. And they still got dew point relief, though. The dew points actually got a little lower there. They got down to the low 60s. So, yeah, even drier there. So, yeah, there was a little bit of relief from the humidity, but the big relief comes tomorrow. Let's look at the lows. So West Hampton got down to 64. Otherwise, lows in the upper 60s. So let's go to our weather map here, and we'll take a look at what we have now going on. So you can see here, we've got a low pressure here, center here with a cold front, and then we have another little low pressure center here. We have this high building down, and here is Hurricane Lee over here. All right, so of course that's what we're going to talk about next is Hurricane Lee. So actually, before I do that, let's just look at, they took the rainfall amounts down for you. I'm not even going to go over that. Let's go to talk about Hurricane Lee. We have two hurricanes going right now, Lee and Margaret. So first start with Lee here, maintaining its Category 3 status, I believe. So as of 8 p.m., its location is 25.0 north, 66.5 west, about 515 miles south-southwest of Bermuda. Maximum sustained winds are 115 miles an hour, moving northwest at 7 miles an hour, and the minimum central pressure is 946 millibars to 7.94 inches. And now we have a tropical storm watch in effect for Bermuda. As of 8 p.m., the center of Hurricane Lee was located near latitude 25 north, longitude 66.5 west. Lee is moving toward the northwest at 7 miles an hour. Lee is forecast to turn toward the north on Thursday and increase in forward speed. Maximum sustained winds are near 115 miles an hour. Lee is a Category 3 hurricane. And some slow weakening is forecast during the next 48 hours. They don't think that this is going to go back up to a Category 4 again, which I guess we can be fortunate of. But the wind field is very large, and this is the problem. Lee is a very large hurricane. Look at this. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 125 miles from the center. And tropical storm force winds extend out up to 240 miles from the center. So while the storm is not a big Category 4, it's actually, all the energy is actually going over a wider area. And this is going to be a big problem for high surf. Sail drone 1036, located about 70 miles northwest of Lee Center, recently reported a wind gust of 92 miles an hour. So let's go take a look at Lee on the satellite. And let's we'll go look at Lee over here first here. So here's Lee again, looking pretty healthy. Look at that. It's got a big eye. This thing's probably going to form a big eye again. You can see it's barely moving right now. But look at that. Yeah, you can see that's a pretty big eye right there. Probably 30 miles wide at least. So, yeah, that's a pretty big eye right there. That's definitely a healthy-looking storm for sure. And if we go look at Lee on this satellite here from Tropical Tidbits, you're going to again see that this is a pretty healthy-looking hurricane right here, and it's huge. And it is huge. And we're going to go back to this satellite here. And we're going to show you, we're going to go to the Caribbean satellite. So you can see, you put this to scale, and we'll show you how big this storm is. So you get an idea. Look at that. I mean, that's huge. Huge storm. And we'll just roll this back to 72 here. So you can take a look at what it looks like during day. So, I mean, you could fit all of the state of Florida inside that storm. That's how big it is. So, yeah, it's pretty big, and that's the problem that we have to watch out for. Even if it misses us, it's got a big wind field, and that's the issue that we have. And right now, it looks like we're not going to have a direct hit from it, but for folks on the east end, and we'll talk about the forecast in a moment. You're going to have to watch out for the possibilities. This is the cone right here. Unfortunately, now they are shifting it more to the east, so I guess this is good news. Though it is a large storm, and so I still think the Cape could feel some effects, and maybe eastern Long Island, but we're still going to have rough surf at the beaches. And that's the thing, it's a big hurricane, so it doesn't have to hit us. We don't even have to feel the wind effects to feel the effects we're going to see that kind of flooding that we saw, I think, when we had Franklin, perhaps a little worse. When you saw what Franklin did to the beach, Lee could do worse. And they have it landfalling right now. Maine and Nova Scotia is where they have this thing landfalling now. So they have shifted the cone further east, and that's the good news with that. The other storm we got is Margaret, still a hurricane, and latest public advisory on Margaret. Margaret continues northward for now. Forecast beyond Friday is uncertain. So as of 9 p.m., its location 31.7 north, 39.6 west, about 835 miles southwest of the Azores. Maximum staying winds are 80 miles an hour, moving north at 14 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure 977 millibars, 8.85 inches. And they say that a turn toward the north-northwest at a slower forward speed is expected beginning tomorrow. And then there's going to be a meandering northward motion expected on Thursday and Friday. And then beyond Friday, they're not even certain where it's going to go. This is also a relatively large storm. Hurricane force winds extend outward up to 80 miles from the center, and tropical storm force winds extend outward up to 265 miles from the center. Is that right? 265 miles. Wow. That's quite, and there's going to be swells with that, and those swells are going to affect the Azores. And if we look at the cone of uncertainty, you can see it's just going to kind of hang around this area. I still wonder I think it's just too far away from Lee to have a Fujiwara effect, but you can see it's out in the middle of the ocean, but still, I mean, it's stirring up the Atlantic. You have two big storms out there. We're going to go look at Margaret right now on here as well. So here's Margaret, and you can see here, and we got it on the 60. Actually, no, they could do the 60. You can see it's not as impressive looking as Lee, but that's still an impressive looking hurricane. If that was heading our way, we'd be in a world of hurt, but fortunately it's not. But so let's go to the MODIS again, and we'll kind of show you the portrait of these two storms here, because this is quite something. I think this might be our thumbnail for this video. Look at that. Two big hurricanes in the Atlantic like that. Look at how big Lee is. Again, look at how big. If Lee's over here, look at how, I mean, that's still close to us. That's still, we could still be having effects from that. So you have Lee over here, and then you have Margaret over here. That's something. What a portrait that is. I'm telling you. That's a portrait right there. That's a real portrait right there. So you can see here's the cold front here, and then behind it we have this nice clear air. However, I do see a lot of smoke over here, and still wildfires. Looks like going in Alberta and maybe even the Northwest Territories. Still seeing a decent amount of smoke over here. That's still, so we still have the smoke over there. I haven't even talked about that much because I'm focused on the tropics. But we'll talk about the smoke a little bit later. Well, we can look at it now on the satellite, I guess. Gotta find the satellite. What did I do with it? All right, here we go. So let's go, and we can actually go to the U.S. Atlantic coast. Let's see. I don't know if this is going to show. Yeah, here's Lee over here. Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big eye. That's a big eye right there. That's a big eye. Wow. Yeah, that's what we see. We're seeing more and more of that. All right, so let's go to the, we'll just briefly look at the smoke situation here. These fires still look like they're going. I still see a lot of smoke. Let's see. We got some big fires going. It looks like in Alberta right now. I mean, here we are in September, and these fires are still going. They're going to be going until November, these fires, I think. They're not going to be out until November. It's unbelievable. It does look like there is some moisture coming in, and hopefully maybe that'll help put out these fires. But, I mean, that's go to the Canada northern U.S. view as well. I know I haven't been talking about it much, but, man, look at all that. Oh, that's a lot of smoke over there. What is that? What is that brownish, maroonish thing there? That's what is that? It looks like red. I mean, what is that red blob over there? What is it right here? I mean, what is that? You see that? This. So these fires are still burning out of control. So we still have to worry about some smoke eventually. But right now, let's get back to talking about the tropics here. Let's go back to tropical tidbits here. And we're going to take a look at the spaghetti models for Lee. And they seem, the good news is for us and even New England, it looks like they have the center going more over Nova Scotia. Unfortunately for Nova Scotia, they're going to get pounded. But it's a big storm. So even if the hurricane center is over here, you could still possibly get hurricane force winds on the Cape and at the coast, and maybe even tropical storm force gusts on eastern Long Island, perhaps. So it's a big storm. So a lot of, that's why people like, it says here, do not use this map to make official decisions, because this just shows where the center is going. All right, doesn't show where the area where that's going to get affected by the whole storm. So keep that in mind. Here's the GEFS ensemble. Some of them still take it curve it a little more to the west, and then we have the GEPS tracks as well here. Intensity guidance, they all keep it around a Cat 3 for a while, and we'll have to see what this landfalls as when it landfalls in Nova Scotia. I still think it's going to be a hurricane when it gets there. So let's go to the models next. We will go and look at the models here. And I mean, I wanted to show you Margit as well. So we'll show you Margit here. All right, there's Margit. All right, I know it's not. This is weird because they don't know where it's going to go. I mean, a lot of the models seem to take it. I think it could affect Europe. Perhaps the United Kingdom. If you look at this, you could see takes it toward the United Kingdom. So this could be an issue for the United Kingdom. Another hurricane. The United Kingdom usually never gets hurricanes, or tropical storms. But again, we are in a different world now, a much warmer world where things like this happen. So let's go to the models here, and pretty much we know what's going to happen here. We know this high is coming in. Cold front, the trough's going to come in and pull it north into Nova Scotia. There's still a little bit of a wobble, but right now that's what it looks like. You can see we have the high there, and then that is going to, but you can still see some of the rain from that wrapping around on Saturday, perhaps even affecting the extreme eastern Long Island, perhaps. Remember, it's a large storm, and that's the thing, and that wind field is going to be large as well. So that's another thing to keep in mind with that. And again, let me go to U.S. Atlanta, eastern U.S. This is going to be a better view, so you get a better idea. So you can see the landfall right here would be in Nova Scotia on the GFS, though Maine would probably need to be under a hurricane warning as well. And so that's what the GFS shows. Now we're going to go to the ICON model. We'll get to the Euro in a moment, but let's go to the ICON model. ICON, looking similar to the GFS, but hooks it a little more to the left. All right, and then the European, which is always the furthest west. Now, this is the 18Z European, and look at this 18Z European. It still wants to take it and have it make that left turn. This is the 18Z run. This is we can look at the 12Z run. You can see it still takes it a little further to the west here. and that could bring some tropical storm effects into Suffolk County, because remember, this is a large storm and hurricane effects all along the New England coast there. This is the European model here, so I'm not going to write this off yet and say, oh well, that's it. New York's dodged the bullet here. It's still too early right now. I'm not confident in saying that right now. Things are looking less likely for a major hurricane hitting our area, but it's close enough that we need to keep an eye on this once again. All right. So that's the European model. All right. And we are going to go into the northeast view here so we can get a closer view on this Euro here. And you can see it brings some of that rain. Look at that over the Cape. And you can see how tight the isobars are over Long Island. If it would take this track, we may need a tropical storm warning for us on Saturday if it's that close. We'll have to see. Because if we go to this wind field here, remember, it's a large storm, all right? This is the wind field for it. You could see maybe parts of Suffolk County might need a tropical storm warning. But definitely hurricane warnings would be needed for the Cape, perhaps Boston. And again, this would be a terrible, terrible storm for the Cape with a track like this. Everybody this is going to affect a large area from the Cape all the way to Nova Scotia. It wasn't like the last storm that hit Nova Scotia, the hurricane in Nova Scotia. I forgot the name of that hurricane. I'm just going to look it up. Nova Scotia hurricane. What was the name of it? Lee is expected to strike Nova. What was the name that hit? It was Fiona. So here we go. Yeah, Fiona. It was Fiona that hit Nova Scotia. So Fiona, this is a lot more powerful than Fiona, and that's the scary thing about it. It's a bigger storm too as well. So that's what the European looks like. Now, if we go back to the GFS here, you'll see the GFS doesn't have that bump westward. It just keeps generally going straight north. And that would keep the worst of the wind field to our east, though the Cape could still get into it. Nova Scotia would get a direct hit there. All right. So if we go back out to the, let's go to the North American view here, and I'm going to show you the upper air again. Just go to 500 MB height anomaly here. So we'll show you the difference between the GFS. So you can see that trough pulls it north, and you see there's that ridge there, but it's not. If we go and we look at the European model, and again, we only have out till, you got to go to the 12Z run on this. European is stronger with that ridge, and that forces it further to the west. So we still have some variability here to work with here. And even though the NHC has taken us out of the cone, honestly, I don't necessarily agree with the NHC on their forecast here. If we go again, look at Lee and their cone. This cone should be covering coastal New England. I think it's a big mistake they took coastal New England out of the cone. Huge mistake and a huge oversight from the Hurricane Center. It does say, does not show the size of the storm. Hazardous conditions can occur outside the cone. But honestly, I think this cone should be a little bit bigger. I don't think it's big enough. All right, I don't agree with them. As long as the European keeps doing what it's doing, it's just too soon right now to know for sure what's going to happen with this. So let's go to some more models here. We're going to go to Ventusky. Well, actually, I think we can go to windy.com. Let me go to windy.com. Because I think we'll have now, we can show you on the European model what this does. And this is the European model, so we can show you what the European model is showing. You can see how big the wind field is with this storm here. So here we are, it's Saturday, and you can see Long Island, okay, these are sustained winds. Sustained winds at 20 miles an hour, but if you're on the Cape, you're getting low-end winds of 56. And then if I put the gusts in here, which is more realistic, you're on the Cape, you're dealing with gusts, you're definitely going to have hurricane force conditions. Euro has a hurricane hitting coastal New England. Rhode Island, you're right on the border, and if you're out on eastern Long Island, might need a tropical storm warning. All right? For Nassau, we'd only have gusts up to 30, so we wouldn't see too much, we wouldn't have that kind of damage that, that they would have. But Suffolk County could have some, power outages due to that. And let's move this along here. So again, this is the European looking at Saturday, and you can see it goes into, it's still a hurricane. Still think a hurricane, a minimal hurricane here Saturday night as it goes into Maine here. And it makes more of a landfall in Maine versus Nova Scotia. All right? And that's the difference here. But again, we're talking about the winds here. And again, this is what the Euro has as of Friday. You can still see it could be at least a Category 2 hurricane over here in this spot. And again, look at how big this thing is. All right? So waves. This is the thing that's going to affect a lot of people. And you can see, look at the high surf we are going to have here along our beaches here. 10-foot waves. We're going to see the kind of inundation that we had. We're going to start to see it a little bit on Thursday, but especially Friday is going to be some major. And look at what happens here. So this is the European track on Saturday. Look at what happens here. You're going to have waves probably up over 15 feet, and then on the Cape, you could be dealing with waves over 20 feet. The Cape is going to get inundated. Yeah, I mean, inundated. It's going to be one of the worst hurricanes to hit Cape Cod in a long while. It's going to cause a lot of severe flooding, and a lot of places are going to be inundated with severe storm surge, and they're probably going to have to think about making evacuations to a lot of these coastal areas because, again, look at this. I know some parts in New England have cliffs, but some areas don't, and there's going to be flooding there. Boston as well. I mean, you're going to have that east wind just piling, the northeast wind piling the water in. Eventually, when the center gets north, it'll go more north. The winds will go more offshore, but ahead of the storm, we could see very strong winds. And, this is going to be really bad. And you can see the water here going into some of these harbors here, causing some major flooding that could be really disastrous. All right, this is the European. I'm showing the European and not the GFS because I just want people to know the worst situation that we could have here. So this is the windy. I'll go to Ventu Sky now so we can look at the GFS as well on this. All right, so here's the GFS. All right, this is probably, it says icon, so it might use the icon actually. But let's go to Saturday here. All right, and I'm going to just shift this over to the GFS. All right, so you get an idea here. All right, so GFS, wind gusts. This is the GFS scenario, all right? So here we are. GFS, is a little faster with the storm, too, compared to the Euro. You see how close it is, all right? So you're still getting gusts up to 50 on the Cape here. Friday, here we are at 11 o'clock Friday night. And you can see, again, this would be, within the storm, you're still dealing with a pretty healthy Category 1 hurricane, maybe even a Category 2. Right? Let's not underestimate those warmer waters and what they can do. 5 in the morning, you can see here that, again, we have still a pretty healthy hurricane here heading right for Nova Scotia and Maine. This is the GFS. All right, GFS seems a little stronger than the Euro for this far north. So definitely a healthy hurricane impacting Nova Scotia and some pretty strong winds in this area. And so this is giving you an idea of what could happen here. And, we'll know more on this, of course, is this is also, this is Margit. All right. Now, what's this? This would be another storm that forms over here. All right. So let's go back to the eastern U.S. view and back to the GFS. We'll go back to the surface. So once we're done with that, we still got to watch out for the second storm there, though. It looks like it's recurving it further east, which is good news. For now. Again, can't even write that storm off because that's just too far ahead. So let's get a little more into the short range now. We still got a ways to go, but what I could say is if you're in Cape Cod, anywhere from Cape Cod to Nova Scotia, you're going to get the worst of this storm. But anywhere along the coast, even here, we're going to see a lot of coastal flooding. And it's going to probably be worse than Franklin. So what Franklin did, because this is a bigger storm and it's closer. Franklin was a big storm, but this is going to be closer, and that's going to make a difference. So we're going to see some rain chances returning tomorrow in the morning, cluster of showers and thunderstorms. And then for tomorrow, we'll have some widely scattered showers and thunderstorms until the actual cold front comes through. HRRR seems a little slower with this front, I notice. than some of the other models. It has a few showers even Thursday morning before the high pressure builds in, which is kind of interesting here. So let's go to the dew points. Show you this cold front here. I'll have to go back to Ventus sky eventually. So we're still going to be dealing with some humidity tomorrow. You see the winds start to become westerly, especially toward the evening, and then they turn northerly, and that's going to bring in the dry air. The dew points drop on Thursday. All right. Temperatures. The temperatures are going to be mainly in the 70s tomorrow, probably maybe near 80. But there'll be a decent amount of cloud cover. Some areas might see 80, I guess, if we get more sun. But Thursday is going to be nice and cool. Temperatures only in the low 70s. It's going to be a really nice day. We'll go to the GFS next and look at the dew points as well. GFS is more aggressive at bringing the front through quicker, drops the dew points down, and then you can see here, we're going to have northerly winds. Here's Friday. We got northerly winds, and then Saturday, northwesterly winds. And then for Sunday, we start seeing the winds back a little more to the west, and that's going to bring in some warmer air, as you'll see when we go to looking at our temperatures here. So obviously Wednesday, Thursday, you can see we only got low 70s. Friday, only low 70s. That storm's going to keep that strong northerly flow going. Saturday, only 70s, but only low 70s. But then we start getting up near 80 by Sunday again. So let's go and look at the skies. Be the next thing we're going to do here. So tomorrow, obviously, we have the front coming through, so a good deal of clouds. And Thursday, we should have a mostly sunny day, but we'll have to watch how close that cirrus shield gets to us. Friday, we may be dealing with that cirrus shield from Lee, and then Saturday as well. So we'll have to see. This is the GFS. Obviously, every model is different with it, but it's a big storm, so I would think we will be dealing with some clouds from it. However, the RGEM is a different idea. The RGEM has this front going through, and then we're mostly sunny by later Thursday, and then Friday it has the cirrus just going over eastern Long Island there. You can see the cirrus just going over eastern Long Island, and then maybe the shield will get a little closer on Saturday. But you can see that's what the cirrus is right there. All right, so that's the RGEM. It may be just being a little too. I think it's because the center is all the way over here. So I don't know. I think that's too far east personally. Because if you go to the FV3, which is, we don't really have enough of the 0Z, I don't think the FV3 is going to take us that far out. Here's Thursday. You can see here's the FV3. It only goes out till Friday here, all right? We couldn't, the NAM3 ain't going to take us that far out either, so we can't really know forecast for the sky Friday. There's so many variables here. I can't talk about Thursday, though, so Thursday should be a mostly sunny day. So let's go back to Ventus sky here. Ventus sky here. And we'll go look at thunderstorm threat for tomorrow, because that's something we'll have to talk about. Some of these storms could be, you can see there is some cape around, so some of these storms could be severe, and that's why the Storm Prediction Center has put us in. If we go over here and we go to the Storm Prediction Center, you'll see there's that marginal risk. We go into tomorrow, you'll see that there's a marginal risk right over us. Just marginal, but again, we've seen that we could see, let me go back to Ventus sky, we could see some thunderstorms tomorrow, and that threat will probably be with us until tomorrow night. If we go to the lifted index here, which is another measure of instability, decent amount of instability in the air because the front hasn't come through yet, and it won't until after 11 o'clock at night. And that's we have to wait for that front to come through. If we go to clouds here, you'll see this is probably the front right here. Let's look at this on Tierra. Thursday looks like. So let's see what it does with this front on Thursday. So it does get offshore by noon, and then we have north winds, pretty strong north winds here. And just to show you the waves again, we can look at that again. See, the waves are already picking up. All right, and then if we go into Friday, you'll see the waves will really pick up here. All right, let's see what this does with the cirrus shield for I don't know what it's going to use. Probably the icon. So it does keep that cirrus shield to the east. So we'll have to see. Very hard to say what's going to happen right now this far out with the clouds, let alone everything else with the storm. So just keep that in mind. Let's go to the back to the models here, and I'm going to go to the NAM3 as well. 0Z NAM3, which we don't have enough in to go to the 18. Because I want to show you the NAM4 tomorrow. Obviously, it was a little more active with the thunderstorms. You can see it has some pretty strong, maybe even you can see some purple there right around the middle of the day. Some strong thunderstorms there around, and we have to wait for that, like a little wave along the front to really make its way east. And you can see there are the outer bands for Lee just showing up on the NAM. We can go to the NAM 12, which does run a little further out to 18Z as well. To use one of the more short-range models with Lee here, and this is what the NAM does with Lee. All right, you can see it definitely brings that edge over New England, but the NAM looks a little more like the GFS as far as the track is concerned right now. But the Euro still wants to, I'm just a little more concerned. Where, until we have more short-range models, it's like I really don't want to, say it's we're not gonna see any effects from it as far as wind goes. We'll definitely see the surf, but it's just too early to say if we're not going to see any wind and rain from this. It's too early. It really is. So let's look at the smoke model here. Just look at this and see where this wildfire smoke in Canada is going to go, and then we'll go over the day's statistics, and I'll wrap up this weather update. But you can see here, let's go ahead and we're going to run this, and this only goes to 14. So it looks like at least for Thursday we're not going to have to deal with any smoke. But anyway, let's go to the day's statistics, our climate statistics for the day before we wrap this up. So islip hit 83, 7 degrees above normal for the high, and 8 degrees above normal for the day. Central Park, we were 4 degrees above normal for the day. And again, if we were to look at the preliminary data for islip here, just to give you an idea of how above normal we're running this month so far. We're running over 6 degrees above normal so far this month of September temperature. That's quite remarkable, but things should cool down. But I still think this month is going to wind up being above normal. So that's going to wrap up this weather update. Have a good night.